just want to say hello to the people who just joined the webinar. We'll be starting in about 5 minutes. If somebody just type in a chat about 1, so I know I'm audible, I would appreciate that. Great, thank you. Great, yeah, so we've got a couple minutes to kill. Does anybody want to tell me, just you could chat in if you want to, of course, no pressure if you don't want to, but just you could tell me, where you are at currently, maybe if you're working in the field, if you're a student looking to get into the field, what your experience level is, and kind of what I guess drew you to DevOps. Go. Yeah, what drew you to DevOps? Kind of I guess what your hopes are, trying to get into the field. Great, great. So are you when some person say trying to get in the field, are you currently working in another field? Are you a student? Student, great, great. And are you studying in like CS or STEM, something to do with STEM? Um, or kind of a different field and hoping to just get a job in technology? Mathematics. Okay, great. Yeah. Um, and are you doing a pure math degree? Like, are you doing a lot of proofs, or are you doing more of a computational math degree? And I see some other people are responding as well. I'll get you to you guys in 1 second. I'm just really kind of curious about this math. Did some math in school as well. Computational math. Interesting. Okay. Interesting. Where are you doing that, if you don't mind me asking? Which school? Yeah. Either way, I would say that definitely a lot of systems design is. Oh, U of T. I went to U of T. So are you taking oh, I can't remember the course codes, but not the 137 track, the one below that, the one I can't remember. I want to say 135, 136. Is that what the course codes are for the computational? You take a computational calculus and you do your linear algebra, but it's not the 240, it's the 223 or whatever it is. Cool. Yeah, I have a friend of mine who's doing a double in life sci and well, did way back in the day, did a double in life sci and math. Did the computational field as opposed to the proofing field or the proofing track, and did great, really high GPA, a lot happier than the people who did the proofing or the enriched tracks. So good for you. I think the system design stuff will help you a lot for DevOps, but yeah, there's a lot less math in DevOps, like a lot less math in DevOps than people think. DevOps is a lot more to do with troubleshooting and understanding like quite a large set of technologies to get different jobs done and how they interact with each other. It's a lot more information about about the technologies that you're actually using as almost like tools than it is going to be a math. But of course, system thinking is going to help. So anyways, I got a couple other people. Ottawa attempted to obtain another undergrad, dropping out after 2 years to become a data scientist. Okay, great. So I'm seeing one person, you're working as a data scientist, and I'm assuming you want to either switch to full DevOps or like ML ops or data ops or something like that. Um, yeah, for sure. If you already have a degree and a half and you've been working in the field, that's a pretty great place to start from. On your way to learn DevOps, and you'll probably understand the use case of a lot of. So one of the harder things about learning DevOps is that when you are completely new, then understanding the use case and the context for the tools is the hardest part. The tools themselves are actually not that difficult once you understand like why you would want to use them. So okay, attempted to actually don't have a desk job, but I'm interested in DSA. Okay, yes. I will tell you quite honestly that deploying a model and being a data scientist are very different things. But obviously you gotta go in the direction of it by deploying models. Try to find really, really, really messy data. If you want that real data science experience, find data that you just wonder who the database administrator was, and you kind of loathe them. In some deep part of your being, you just wish that database administrator had been an actor or anything besides a database administrator so that you don't have to look at the data that they set up for you. Whoever did the plumbing for the data you're getting, they're not your friend. You don't like them very much. Find data that makes you feel like that, and then you're actually becoming a data scientist and see if you can do it with that. So that almost all of your time is just trying to understand what the heck is going on with the data, and that you know that if you had maybe built the data yourself and arranged the data the way that you wanted to, it would have taken you like 30 minutes to understand what the data was going on. Instead, it's going to take you at least a month, right? Find data like that, and then you're on your way to becoming a data scientist. Okay. And so I've got another person trying to get into the field, was an IT auditor and worked with a lot of platform engineer. I was like computers and a lot more interesting. Yeah, great. Okay. Well, everybody so far obviously has an interest in technology, and I think that's really wonderful. And I think that you guys, especially who have a bit of context for why you want to do things, is going to make understanding DevOps a lot easier and can really help you. Yeah, like I don't know, really help you maybe stay motivated in that direction. I find that if you learn the tools completely without context, it can be a little bit um, you won't be as motivated because you won't see the use case. But if you've been in the field a little bit, or you know, shameless plug, join us, and we'll tell you a lot about the use cases for things. You can at least see the business value in the DevOps technology. Because if you're just chasing a buzzword, it won't sustain you. But if you understand, like, wow, okay, I see really why businesses need this. They need so many of them, and there's just not enough DevOps around. Then that can be enough to keep you moving forward. Okay, great. So we're over time for starting. We are just waiting on one of our presenters today. So I'm going to kind of just talk a little bit about us, and then I'm going to basically bring it back to just an open form discussion. Because I believe Shannon is going to join us soon. So yeah, thank you for coming out today. This is our journey to become a DevOps engineer presentation, kind of about the steps you're going to need to. DevOps is really experiencing kind of like a huge moment right now. Maybe 5 years, excuse me, 5 years ago, data science was very, very strong, and it is still very strong. But I would say that DevOps it's having its moment just like data science did, and maybe even pushing beyond that a little bit. Data science is very, very useful and very lucrative if you can get it to work, but it's very hard, and machine learning is very hard, and sometimes very often it just doesn't work and it doesn't show strong business results, whereas DevOps is much more guaranteed. And the amount of need to update the methodologies and the way that things are done to have DevOps, like DevOps as a paradigm or a philosophy at its core, is there's just so much of a need for that, and almost always shows results. Like it's just very, very valuable thing to do. So we'll get into a lot about this as we go on. So anyways, we are Be Cloud Ready. We're a 2015 startup founded. We're founded in 2015. We make AI and cloud products. We also do corporate training. And we also work with people who are trying to break into the market, to the tech career, because we hire people, we do contract work. So we're always looking for skilled people. And in looking for skilled people, we kind of got to see a lot of the commonalities between people who can get into the field and who are not going to get in the field. They're going to spin their wheels for a long time and try a lot of things, and they're never going to get in the field. So we saw that there was definitely a need for that. We want to help clear that up for people. Yeah, so we've worked with some really great corporate clients in the States, some big names like Wells Fargo and Bank of America. These are all DevOps training clients. So DevOps is, it's huge. It's just everybody needs it right now. So a lot of people are looking for training on that. And for people who are looking to get into DevOps now, it's a really good time too. So just some of our corporate training. And so today with us, we've got Chandan Kumar. He's one of the founders of Be Cloud Ready. He's a chief data architect and senior DevOps consultant. He's got 15 years of experience. He's worked with some of the biggest big names in Canada and Ontario, well, I guess across all of Canada. And he's managed multi-million-dollar projects, hired a lot of people. And so he has a lot of industry level knowledge about DevOps. So yeah, without further ado, I will hand it over to Chandan. Okay, I see that Shannon is online, but that maybe he's just having a bit of audio difficulties right now. So with more ado, as it were. I'll just talk more about DevOps. Yeah, so basically, what else could I say about it? I'm going to see if we had any more questions here. Yeah, so basically, Chin is going to talk a lot about DevOps, and I don't want to kind of preempt his presentation too much. In essence, for people who don't know and are kind of curious, basically for a long time, developers and operations people worked in silos. So for a lot of people who don't know how large software applications come together, is that you have your developers who are kind of creating new features, and then you have your operations people who manage the operational environment. So as we can imagine today that we're talking over Zoom, Zoom has a lot of features, that you can use it to create webinars, and you click on different buttons and whatnot. It has a UI, and then it also has a lot of servers supporting it on the back end. So the people developing the features would be the developers on the front end, or not on the front, I shouldn't say on the front end, but the developers just who are creating the features. And then kind of behind the scenes, but very, very importantly, are all the people who are maintaining the servers and the infrastructure that it requires to have Zoom operate. And of course, they're doing many more things. So that's kind of the way that you can think about it, is that when we go through Zoom, we're connecting to a server somewhere that's doing a whole bunch of complicated operations to make my voice go well, transfer through, to be able to translate the screen properly so you can see our slides, to have our voice go through. So that has to have a server. And so obviously the amount of people using Zoom at any given time is massive, right? So you need teams and teams and droves of people to be managing the servers that actually keep Zoom running, as opposed to building the actual functions. So because those things were excuse me, because those things were very separate for a long time, um, the the silos created a lot of difficulties with you kind of teams working together. So in a lot of ways as well, when new features are created, and they are, you know, to make them live, I mean, to put them, to deploy them into a production environment or whatever, they have to be tested rigorously. There's a lot of feedback. Sometimes you need to go back and change things. Sometimes the new features break things. And obviously these features are not created by one person, but they're created by a huge team of people. And then to have these new features, sometimes you have to change the environments they're going to be running in. So a DevOps is a role that operates above both the developers and the operations people to help them work together. So DevOps has a lot of different tools that really, it's largely about automation. So, before maybe I would be an operations person, and I would be fixing up servers all the time, or maybe I'd even be writing some scripts that I could use to automatically make servers as I needed them. But as the world becomes much, much more cloud intensive, my job is going to get, yeah, just the time requirements for me to manage these servers is going to go up with the amount of servers I need, for example, right? Or the amount of time I need to test new software as more software is coming in from many, many developers working on one project is going to go up and up and up. And as projects went from, small startup sizes to back in the day, a bunch of people working together but not producing that much, because the tools for production have gone up so much, we now, and the demands for using these tools like, Zoom servers, for example, has gone up so much. We need to have we need to have better methodologies for handling things at scale, especially between the developers and the operations people. And this is again what DevOps comes from. I hope that if anybody was kind of curious about what DevOps is, that maybe gives you a better idea. I, coming from kind of a data science, machine learning background, didn't know how the whole picture fit together before I started talking to DevOps people a lot. And it was really eye-opening that, you know, oftentimes people are going to be working in a niche part of the software development cycle. And yeah, and so kind of putting it all together is it wasn't something I was aware of to start off with. But I believe Shannon's with us now, so I'm going to hand it over to
Yeah,
him. And yeah,
yeah.
okay,
Thanks, Nicholas, for introduction.
no
And yeah,
problem.
so today what we're going to talk about is like what is DevOps, and why there is so much interest across the industry, equally from the organizations, from the companies, and for the participants, that everybody wants to jump into this boat because this boat is red hot right now. So let's meet take a look back why DevOps, why people are going crazy about it. So let's start with it. So there are primarily, you can see that two driving factor which are actually moving the DevOps industry right now, the whole concept. One is agile based SDLC. I'll touch base upon what is SDLC. So the inculcation of like pretty much everybody started using agile a couple of years ago, and that actually put a massive amount of pressure to adopt agile. So that is the one of the, I will say, birth of DevOps in a modern style has happened. And second has been the cloud migration. Pretty much every enterprise right now you talk about, everybody's talking about cloud migration. And a lot of people think, oh, they have been talking for the past 10 years, maybe everybody has moved to cloud. No, maybe 5 to 10% enterprises have moved to cloud. And of course, all newer companies, they are day one cloud, but companies which has been there for like 50 years, 100 years, they haven't done majority of the cloud migration yet. And they are moving and moving fast. So you can say for at least next 5 to 10 years, the momentum of cloud is just going to explode. And because the combination of these two has led to the massive demand for DevOps skills, DevOps professionals. So let's take one by one at a time. So I talked about agile based SDLC. What is SDLC? SDLC is a software development life cycle. So remember, DevOps, the full form of DevOps is development operation. It means you are developing the operation. Why, you will say why you are just expanding the acronym, because it has to do with everything. Because DevOps by itself is not a tool, is not a technology, it is a philosophy. Philosophy says how you are going to approach your software development lifecycle. Traditionally, how you have been doing for like 40 years, it doesn't hold true anymore. Why? If I see a software development lifecycle, it is pretty much like that. You have a planning, analysis, design, development. And if someone is coming from a non-technical background, they have probably no clue what I'm talking about. But let me take it to a very simplistic example. So like you want to build a house, right? So when you're going to build a house, what do you need? The first thing you need to do planning. You'll go and see the land. You do the land planning, see if the land is flat, there is a water and everything is there. Then you do basic analysis. Okay, is what kind of soil I have? Is it like a 10% water soil or 60% water soil? For example, in most part of Canada, you have a soil has 60% water. It means it cannot hold a concrete structure. That is why unless you are making a really skyscraper, you really want to have a very lightweight house, like a wooden house. That is why a lot of everywhere you see houses are built of wood, and of course skyscrapers are built of concrete. For that they have to dig a deeper hole. So that is the analysis part. And then you do designing. And designing, you basically hire an architect. The architect will come, they will design, okay, this will be this will be window, roof, everything. And once your architect has delivered the design, then you hire contractors, actually laborers, workers, who will come and actually with the brick and mortar, they will make your house, which is a dream reality. Once the house is built, how do you know it is safe to live? Then you basically have your city maybe inspector, they will come in, they will test, okay, everything is fine. And once it is done, you move into the house. And then implementation and maintenance. So when you live in a house, you have sometimes leakage, sometimes this. So you usually call ad hoc basis contractors come in and fix it. So that is a pretty much what I explained to you. It is a development life cycle of a house. Let's come back to the software. Software has the same thing. If I want to create a software, like for example, I want to sell shoe. So I want to create a software, right? I will say, okay, this type of website, okay, analysis. I want to see what features do I need for my shoe selling website. Then you basically hire a bunch of architects, they design the layout. Then you hire developer, they develop, test. And when you implement it, when your site is running live, there will be issues, production issues. Sometimes site will go down. And that time you need operation and implementation people. That is a typical life cycle of a software. And now let's fast forward. This has been, so even when I'm talking about software development lifecycle, the job role, just see the mapping of job role. First job role for planning, you're talking about business owners. For analysis, you're talking about BA, business analyst. Design, you're talking about architect. Of course, development will be developer. Testing is pretty much everything has moved to automation. So you can say QA automation engineer. And implementation is usually done by operation people, sysadmin, pretty much sysops people doing the maintenance. This is how the job skill maps. And these job skills are actually traditional job skill, which has been there for 40 years. Is called something called waterfall model. Waterfall model of software development, what it talks about is that once you have done the design, once you have passed the architecture design from the city or from the architect, and you give the job to the contractor, they cannot make any changes in the house which is not written. So for example, you went to the city approved your planning of the house. Now you cannot, in the middle of the construction, you can, no, I want extra window. So contractor will say, no, I can't do that, because the approval that you have, it can I only have one window in this particular wall. I cannot create two windows just because you're asking. If you want a new window, you have to do the whole thing all over again. And that is what the waterfall model is. But what if you don't want that? Like if you are not building a house, assume you are building a website. Like if, for example, you started to build your, say, shoe selling website. Maybe you have a shop and you have a shoe website and everything, and you're designing your shoe website on February, right? And while the software development is happening, in the March you hit COVID. Bam, your shops is closed, your business model changed, everything. Now you can only do curbside pickup. So now what? For curbside pickup, you want developer, hey, quickly can you do some changes so that I can enable curbside pickup? What if your developer say, hey, you cannot do this change because it's not approved or whatever, you have to do analysis. Imagine how difficult it will be for a business. For that particular reason, agile based software development was invented. What it does is basically, rather than creating the whole architecture of the whole house, you create an architecture of just one room at a time. So you take your problem, break into a smaller pieces, and basically each smaller pieces you attack in one at a time. So what happens is, when you go for a one room, so assume you designed approved of a one room, and you said, okay, I need a two windows. So that person will say, okay, you maybe this room you cannot do it, but the next room I can make two rooms for you if you get the design approval. So if you have that kind of capacity planning and that type of approach, that is what the agile based software development. And now you'll say, why am I talking about agile based software? Hey, I came here for DevOps. Just give me DevOps. So DevOps is all about implementing the agile based or helping the agile based software development pipeline. So what happens is that, but here is there are no free lunches in the world, right? There is always cost associated. Before, you had a typical, very simple way. You got approval, you are having a software developer, they will develop. After 1 year, they will give you the software. Everything is fine. But now you want to see every small iteration. So pretty much oldest time, you used to deliver maybe software release in every quarter, every 6 months. Now you're talking about releasing software every 2 weeks. For example, have you ever seen Facebook or LinkedIn? You must have seen, right? Every day they are changing a button, they are changing here, they are changing here. Do that say, hey, tomorrow LinkedIn website will be down or Meetup website will be down for 3 hours because we want to upgrade? Have you ever heard of? No. But if it is a government of Canada website, they will say, yes, we are going to do upgrade. Please don't log in. We are shutting down everything. We are bringing it up. It means that government of Canada or any government agency, they are still following pretty much uh, waterfall style of model when it comes to their software update or infrastructure update. But all these Silicon Valley companies, they are all using agile based because they are doing update in a minute, in a second, every day. And when you're talking about doing that, imagine before you have to hire maybe tester maybe for 3 weeks of time. But right now, if I'm deploying something every 2 weeks, it means how much pressure it puts on the whole pipeline. Like the tester has to work very fast. Before, tester used to come and, okay, drink a coffee, find the requirement, create test cases. By this time, 1 month is already gone. But I want something to be delivered now. In next 2 weeks, I need to release to be done. It means what? I have to automate everything. I cannot rely on, okay, the moment software developer develops the code, I want the test to be automatically done. I want the integration to be automatically done. And I also want the deployment to be automatically done without a touch of a human. If I want to do that, I have to automate everything. And that is what the sprint-based agile methodology puts tremendous amount of pressure on existing delivery pipeline. And traditional team, how they work. Software development have their own team, QA people have their own team, and operation people, everybody's working on them. Software person gives the code to QA people, they work on this, test for a 1 month, there is a bug, they give back to developer. It takes 3 to 6 months, and then eventually it goes to operation, and those people will take their own time. But in the modern way, when I'm talking about I want delivery every 2 weeks, do you think we have a flexibility or a leisure of doing that? No, we need to collaborate. That is what called DevOps philosophy, bringing it, breaking down the organization silos. So it means right now everybody's working in a tandem. So now the QA development team are working together more than ever, and the same with our organization. And of course, if you're doing this kind of collaboration, you need a special skill, a skill which is a unique in the market, which is someone who is wearing multiple hats and who can deliver at the speed of light. So that's what we are talking about DevOps, a new breed of skill set that is needed. And because people who maybe a traditional people, nobody has this skill, it is a completely brand new skill. That is why every company who is touching technology, they need at least 2 to 3 DevOps people in every team, every agile team I'm talking about. They may have 100 agile team, they need at least 100 into 2 DevOps people. So that is why I'm talking about so much tremendous demand. You'll say they need so many developers. Yeah, developers are already there. QA, everybody's already there. The new position that has opened, it is a DevOps which is open. Developer always was there. QA people were always there. And guess what? Another thing is happening, and I will take in the subsequent slide. And they expect DevOps to wear multiple hats. It means a lot of jobs will become redundant. They don't need those people anymore. So they will be replacing almost 5 people out of the team using one person DevOps. And that is why they are ready to pay 2x salary for the same job. For example, on average, you can go, don't take my word, go to Indeed or anywhere, you find the salaries. On a median, average salary of a DevOps is 120K. For any other QA and all this is around 50 to 40K. So it's just a 2x jump right away. So that is like a free money sitting over there if someone knows this. Second thing, talk about cloud migration. So cloud migration is a big thing in a way that this is, I took the basically exactly screenshot from AWS, and AWS they themselves say you can see here this one. They say if you do the cloud migration, the labor cost is going to increase threefold, 3 times labor cost. It means more demand for DevOps people because these are the people who will be doing cloud migration. So what is happening? Agile adoption, cloud migration is a big saving for the company. And because now company is saving big time before maintaining a software development team and operation, everything, it used to cost them $1 million. Now with DevOps practice and all these things, the cost is only $500,000. They saved almost $500,000 of their budget. Guess what? They are okay to pay 150, 200 or 100K to a DevOps person if that person can bring that level of cost saving. Why not? For example, if I tell you, hey, give me $10, I will make a profit of $100 to you. You will not think you will give it to me. But another side, I will say, hey, give me $10, I will make you a profit of like a $12. You will not go there. And that is what DevOps is doing. It is giving 10x revenue gain or a cost saving for the employer. And that is why DevOps people can charge premium price in the market. On an average, you can say $100, $120, $150 an hour is a very normal. And of course, you can see $50 job also, but actually those are not a real DevOps job. They just sell it as a DevOps. But if you can bargain it hard, you can go up to 120s very easily. So DevOps solve pretty much these kind of problems like CI/CD. Of course, someone hasn't done any software development in their life, they possibly won't understand, and possibly I won't be able to explain you in a 5 minutes of video, right? Because it's a very deep concept like what is continuous integration, what is continuous delivery. Then I'm talking about infrastructure automation, managing relationship between developer and operation people, and failing intelligently. These are the key, I will say, key takeaway for a DevOps professional they expect. And another reason, another side of it, that actually there are so many legacy jobs in the market right now, they are all at a risk. In next pretty much 5 years, you will see all the jobs that you see on the blue, they are going to disappear, and pretty much all the jobs, they will eventually be replaced at a single job role, which is a DevOps engineer. So right now you can see, having a DevOps person, I can replace a sysadmin, DBA, configuration admin, build engineer, support person, and platform engineer all together. So I'm talking about almost like a 6 people. So imagine even if 6 people, I pay a salary on an average of 60K, 6 people are how I'm talking about almost 350K of like a cost from employer. What if I hire a single DevOps person and I pay him or her 120, 130, 140K? Organization is still saving almost 1/3 of the cost. And but the salary of a candidate has gone double. And that is what power of DevOps. Of course, when I'm talking about DevOps, DevOps has to wear multiple hats. So basically, DevOps always has two sides. One is a developer side, one is the operation side. Developer side, you are talking about, you need to know some skills like Python, building pipeline, Jenkins, Git, and operation side. Of course, you need to be good with Linux administration, Kubernetes, Ansible, Bash, monitoring. And that is what you come to as a DevOps. Coming back to wearing multiple hats, of course you will be wearing multiple hats because you are supposed to replace 5 people's job. It is, and again, it's not a Superman, but people, you will realize it is much easier than people think. For example, you are sysadmin, you are developer, you are doing a little bit of QA, and the biggest thing they're looking for actually, go getter go-getter and a team player. That is a skill that you cannot learn anywhere. You have to develop. It means being engineer at your heart. What is engineer? Engineer mean you are able, or you are ready at least, to solve any problem, no matter how challenging it is. And second thing, you are not a quitter. If you think, oh, it's too difficult, I'm not going to do it, then possibly is nothing is here, right? DevOps may not be the thing. Maybe like some other, like a easier job might be for you. But if you think that you can take up a challenge and you enjoy doing challenging work, you like to test your limit, you want to push yourself to the next level, this is the field for you. Of course, if you just want to sit on a table and drink coffee, and I think Starbucks job is much better because you are just serving same type of coffee and just pressing some buttons and your latte is ready. But it is not that kind of cookie cutter job. And of course, there are certain skills, those are mandatory for basically a cloud, basically a DevOps kind of skill. So skill involves Git is a paramount. You need a Git to understand how the basically source control works, understanding of Linux, because everything what you see in the cloud is all running on Linux. Ansible, at least one kind of automation skill is good to have. Terraform, if you're talking about cloud infrastructure, you need to use Terraform. That is the to go tool right now for infrastructure as code. Then Docker and Kubernetes, if you're doing a microservice-based application deployment, then Docker Kubernetes is needed. Python, I always say keep it on your sleeve, because Python is a thing that, assume you are trying to do DevOps, right? After 2 months, you realize, hey, looks like, DevOps is not the thing of, it's not my thing. It may be something else. But if you learn Python, and if you have a little bit of data experience that we cover, that we emphasize in a DevOps skill as well, then you can become a data engineer. You can become a data analyst. So basically having a base skill of Python, Git, that will go a long way. And plus some of the cloud skill. Jenkins is pretty much, if you're building CI/CD pipeline, you need Jenkins. You cannot survive without it. And of course, Grafana, ELK, these are pretty much very standard tool when it comes to your any kind of a monitoring. And the most important thing I want to talk about is that knowing each tool one at a time is not enough. You must know how to make all tools work together. It means you are not a master of everything, but you are a jack of all trades. For example, if you ask me, do you know every command on earth about Git? No, I don't know. Sorry. Do you know everything about Linux? No. If you ask me about all these tools, do you know everything about it? All answer is no. But if you ask me, can you deploy a full pipeline using all these tools and it will deliver a business value? Yes. Answer is yes. Anytime, yes. Even I'm sleeping, answer is yes, because I can do this tool all working together. Why? Because I have done it hundreds of times. So this is what I talk about. If anybody wants to become a DevOps, learning individual skill is one thing. You have to do a lot of commercial grade projects where you leverage all these skills and go through the painful process of what we call active learning, where you basically learn while doing rather than mugging up some courses on Udemy and next day you pretty much forget it. When you do that, then you remember forever. And plus, for that, you don't have to remember any interview questions because you did it, right? For example, someone asks, hey, if this happens, what would you do? I don't have to look up on a Google. I know it because I just did it 2 days ago. So that is the key. So going, I know this is, I mean, a lot of information to take, so I will leave now for a demo. I think Sonu has prepared a demo for that. Basically it leverages all these tools and basically showcase a demo how you can use this technology and do a complete automation. And when I say complete automation means you do a one button or a one command you run, it just works. And that is what the power of DevOps. Sonu, are you there? It's up to you.
Yeah, thank you, Chandan. Um, can you hear me? Am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible.
Okay, perfect. I'm just going to share the screen. So yeah, like Chandan was talking about, one of the biggest things. Okay, I have screen sharing disabled. If there's any way you can give me the screen share.
Yeah, I'll make you admin. Wait.
Yeah. Yeah, so Chandan was talking about how
Wait. Sorry, I just wait 1 minute.
All right. Yeah, so Chandan was talking about how all these companies are moving to the cloud. I still can't screen share, by the way. So what we're trying to do here is one of the most popular forms of cloud is AWS, correct? So AWS has a lot of services that can be used by companies, which they can transmit all their infrastructure that they have on premise. This could be something like a database server, a web server, everything like that. And they would take all that information and push it to the cloud. So one of these services is called an EC2 instance. What an EC2 instance is basically an instance of
Sorry to
compute.
disturb. So no, I think you have to rejoin using that other ID. I'm not able to make you admin.
Okay, sure.
Can you rejoin?
Yeah, I will rejoin.
Oh yeah, he made, I think, co-host.
Okay, yeah, I
Right
can
now?
share my screen. Yeah,
Yeah, that's good.
okay, awesome. So one of these services that AWS provides is called EC2. And what EC2 is a compute capacity in the cloud. It's fully resizable, scalable compute capacity. It's basically like a mini computer that you can run on the cloud, or like you can assume as a mini server that you can run on the cloud. So AWS actually makes it very simple for you to go use their console and launch up an instance. But if you're working at a company, you're not just going to need one instance, especially if it's a large company. What the large company might need hundreds or maybe 200s of instances in the cloud. Now, like I mentioned, AWS makes it very simple and easy using their console to launch one single cloud. However, to launch 200, that is extremely time consuming and it will take you a very, very long time to go, click one button, create the cloud, enter all the settings, blah, blah, blah. That will take way too long. So what I'm going to present to you as a demo is I'm going to show you how you can use Python to automate the entire process of creating an EC2 instance on the cloud using AWS EC2. As well, I'm going to go ahead in this automation tool, I'm going to go ahead and launch a website as well, directly onto our EC2 instance. So before I show you the code, a couple of things is the couple of technologies that we're using. Obviously, we're using Python. Python is where we will be writing our code. Now, there's a couple of technologies, for starting with Flask. Flask is a development server that you can use, and it is the server that we're going to be basically writing our website code on. Our code is very simple. It's going to be a very basic website. All it's going to have is a graph, some data, and that's pretty much it. But the entire point of this is not to make a fancy website right now. It's just to show that you can launch a website. The second thing is we're going to be using Python. We're going to be using Boto 3 library in Python. Now, Boto 3 library is a library designed to access your Amazon account and it automates the process of creating, deleting EC2 instances. It doesn't even have to be EC2 instances. It can work with any services that is provided by Amazon. But for today, we're going to be focusing on EC2. The last thing we're going to do, and I don't know why the label isn't here, but we're going to work with an SSH tool called Paramiko. So when you don't have a tool like Paramiko, when you create an instance manually on AWS, how are you going to log into the instance? You have to use an SSH command. What Paramiko does is it allows you to SSH into an instance directly within Python. So using all of these tools, we're going to launch our Amazon instance. If you can see over here, our Flask website that we're going to create, we're going to push that to GitHub, and we're going to pull from GitHub directly into the EC2 instance and launch it. So that way, the entire process of creating the EC2 instance, creating the Flask app, pushing the Flask app to GitHub, pulling it from GitHub into our EC2 instance, and running it will all be seamless and all be done in one button. So let's take a look at the code. So first thing I'm going to show you is our Flask app. And obviously we are in a webinar right now. So this is the type of projects that you guys will be building if you are working with us. But I'm going to go over this really quickly. So our Flask app, all it's doing is when it's hitting this URL, which is a / URL, or we call it the home URL, it's just going to render an HTML page. And our HTML page is the page I talked about. It's just going to have a graph with a bunch of data on it. Nothing too fancy, very simple. And basically, this is the app that we're going to be running. Here is the code, and I'm just going to clear the screen just so it's a little bit easier for everyone. Here is the code that we have. So if we take a look from the very beginning, it's going to give us some options about the regions that we want to choose. You know, which region are we going to choose in our AWS? US East 1, US East 2. These are the different regions you can create your EC2 instance on. And then you have, following that, it's going to ask for your key name. So all AWS EC2 instances require a secret key that is provided by Amazon. So you need access to this key to be able to log into your EC2 instance. Then it's going to ask for a GitHub repository URL. This is the URL which our Flask application is stored, so it can pull it from that GitHub repository directly to the EC2 instance. Following that, it's going to go through a bunch of automation process, and eventually what it's going to do over here, it's going to create our EC2 instance. And after creating the instance, it's going to use Paramiko to SSH into the instance and run a couple of scripts. So it's going to install Git, it's going to clone the GitHub repository, which contains our Flask application. And as well, it's going to run our shell script, which just is going to install pip and Flask, because obviously you need to install Flask for a Flask application to work. Following that, it's going to launch our Flask application, and we should be able to see it going to the public IP address of our EC2 instance. So before we run this code, I just want to show you in my EC2 instance, if I refresh, there's currently no instances available. Obviously, you can go over here and do it manually and launch the instance, but the whole point of this is for it to be automated. So we don't want to launch the instance. So let's take a look at our code. I'm going to run this code, ec2.py, and I spelled Python wrong. Give me a second. Yeah. So immediately it's going to pop up the menu. We're going to choose US East 1 because that's the region I'm closest to. I'm going to give my key name. Key name is Ansible. And my GitHub repository URL, which is right over here. So I'm going to copy this. And now it's going through the process of creating an instance. Obviously, this part will take some time, but if you take a look in my instance list, if I keep refreshing, eventually, here you go. You see it's pending because it's launching. And this was done all through this Python code. I didn't use this AWS launch instance button, nothing. This is all fully automated. So slowly, this is going to go from pending to running. Here we go. And eventually, the rest of our code will run to do all the other steps. So the other steps include finding the GitHub repository where our Flask application is located, pulling that, and then running the shell script, which is going to install Flask and a bunch of other stuff. And then it's going to eventually run our Flask application on the instance. And if you take a look, This instance should have a public IP address. So once everything up and running, I just copy this IP address. I should be able to enter this IP address on the internet and be able to access my Flask app. So yeah, some of the benefits of doing it this way compared to using shell scripts, etc., are this entire process will be localized into one, Python project. You don't have to have many different ones. It's all in one Python project. And if you want to take it even a step further, you can go ahead and Dockerize this entire project, put it into a Kubernetes cluster, and that way, no matter what environment you're running, it will just run and it will just work. You don't need anything to do any hard coding, entering the USC Swan, nothing. It's just click one button and it will run. And you don't have to worry about other, you got to run the shell script, you got to go to your EC2 instance, nothing like that. All of it will be done by one. So it looks like our instance is going to be up and running when, it's saying installed a bunch of libraries. And when it's frozen like this, it means our instance is up and running. Okay, so I'm going to paste that URL, the public IP address, and we should be able to see, yeah, voila. Right over here is our EC2 instance, which is launching and hosting our Flask application. As I mentioned before, this has the graphs that we've talked about. Yeah, this is our fully working pipeline, fully automated. And as you saw, all I did was run one command and everything just worked. So this is a very quick demo. We do have a webinar on next Friday, which I go through this entire process step by step, as well as these are the types of projects that you guys will be working on if you decide to work with our company. So now I'm going to be handing it over to Nicholas, who's going to be talking a little bit more about our company.
Cool. Thanks very much, Sonu. Just gonna share my screen here. Yeah, so I think a lot of people here are interested in getting a job in DevOps or in technology in general. So I'm just going to kind of talk about a program that we have. We've helped a lot of people get into DevOps and cloud. Some of our previous students here, just kind of go through these pretty quickly, but we've senior DevOps engineer at Walmart Labs, we're very proud of. Yeah, a lot of good boot camps and things we've done, really good reviews. So yeah, basically the program, we do offer a program that helps people learn these skills. Basically, the program's all focused around having people be able to complete projects like the one Sonu just showed. So if you can create a project like that and you understand why you're doing it and you understand about kind of the story around why that has business value, then you're ready to go in the job market. What Sonu just showed us is actually a skill that would fit nicely into much larger projects, or would help much larger projects automate a lot of the other things that they're doing. That would just really signal to an employer that this person can provide value to my team. They've built this project from scratch, they understand it, and this is kind of this is the whole aim of our program, is to get people to be able to build programs like that. And then basically have them on your GitHub. So if you don't know for GitHub is sort of, well, basically it's version control software, but one of the uses of that is it sort of becomes like an online portfolio that people have, just like a photographer would have a portfolio of pictures that you would look at to decide whether to hire them or not. GitHub is sort of it's a code repository that you can show to employers, and they'll see what kind of code you can create, what kind of programs you can create to decide whether you're worth being hired. So the whole goal of the program is to have people have strong GitHubs at the end of it. Um, there's a lot of other benefits as well, which I'll get into in a second. But basically, this is what we found is the way to get people to be most appealing in the job market as quickly as possible. So yeah, basically we just work backwards, working with Shannon a lot, as you know, being in the industry for so long, hiring a lot of people. What are the programs, or what are the what are the projects that are going to show employers that you can do the job? And of course, then you just have to break that down into what are the skills that you need to be able to create those projects. What are the technical skills, and what's the theoretical knowledge? You break those kind of two things up, and we do a lot of active learning. So active learning is the idea that instead of it just being us kind of spoon feeding the people in the program theoretical knowledge. We really give you just enough to start working on projects. And obviously we don't start you with the industry grade projects. We start you off with like, mock projects, little things, building little things up until you're like very able to, just very able. You can do a lot of stuff. This is the goal of active learning. It's not so that you can write an exam and have a bunch of knowledge in your head. It's so that you can build things. So yeah, so we just worked, we work backwards from what does the industry want? What are the projects to signal that? What are the skills you need to do that? And then of course, we do it in a big wrapper. And so let me get my screen to change here. Yep, I'll talk about the wrapper in 1 second here, but one of the important things is that some people have CS degrees, some people don't. STEM degrees are also very helpful. Sometimes we get students come in who have, an electrical engineering degree, or they have their master's in electrical engineering, and they still can't quite get a job because, for whatever reason, it's in short, it's often not your degree which matters so much. It's sort of how you signal to possible potential employers that you can bring value to their teams. So for example, if you look at this, you might have a CS degree, you might not. And this is just, one of many, many job postings we found that people would rather see that you can bring value than, your pedigree, because that often doesn't translate as well as people might think it does. Cool. Okay. So yeah, basically, the projects that we give you aren't just going to be, best for DevOps engineer position or site reliability engineer, which is kind of in a certain sense synonymous with DevOps engineer. You go after cloud engineer, cloud automation, system automation, data ops. It's a lot of it. The core projects give you the opportunity to be appealing to a wide range of industries. We've really much set it up like that. The idea is that for new people, what you can do is you can aim at a junior cloud job. So that's going to be kind of the stepping stone on the way to becoming DevOps. To go straight to DevOps, you do have to have quite a bit of understanding. And so now some people, if they go just really, really hard, they can go straight to DevOps. Because the idea is once you get your core fundamentals in place for your cloud, you can put on the DevOps buzzwords right on top of that. And that will, once you really understand those, you understand the context, that will also really make you stand out to employers. But we've kind of created in these 2 steps so that people who have absolutely no background in technology know that sort of at the start, you're aiming at something that's going to be a junior DevOps position before, of course, you go for a senior DevOps position. Some people come in, they think, okay, I have no background whatsoever. I want to learn, the 10 skills that will make me, a full-fledged senior DevOps position. And, we found over time that the best way to do it is go junior DevOps, and then you can go senior DevOps. Not very surprising, but, some people, that needs to be clarified. So basically, we do it is we do an active learning phase, an internship phase, and a placement phase. I've kind of talked about this already, but the idea is that for the active learning, we're just giving you just enough technical knowledge to start building things, which is painful, but we really try to encourage people. We're really like, we help people out a lot. So the way it goes is basically there's a daily Q&A, and there's a whole bunch of videos. So you watch the videos, you copy out the code, you work on little assignments we give you, come to the Q&A once every day. Then we get you unstuck because you'll for sure be stuck in places, and we just keep the ball rolling. And we find it could be a very, very fast process as long as as the people, as they're learning, are actually practicing it. In a lot of courses and a lot of things we take, we learn knowledge, but we don't really apply it, right? In here, you're going to be applying everything you learn, and then some, and that really makes you actually a developer, somebody who can build things and who can solve problems. Then we do an internship phase. At the start, this is an unpaid internship phase. This is where you're developing the projects, the industry grade projects, because we know you have the skills. This way we can see you work in a certain sense. Some of these projects might be built out into full industry grade projects, so we can kind of see you like almost like you're an employee with us, which can help your resume. We can kind of give you a reference because we know what you're capable of at this point. And sometimes when B Cloud Ready gets full paid contract work, then we can put you on those contracts as a junior person. And of course, that's a paid internship at that point. But the first part is just a teaching internship phase. And then next, we finally go into the placement phase. The placement phase is because because especially us and Chandon are very much inside the industry, knowing what is going to stand out to somebody who wants to recruit you or somebody who wants to employ you is very, very obvious to someone like Chandon, and less obvious to everyone else in a certain sense, because he's hired a lot of people, and it's been really eye-opening to me, a lot of the things about how much time people put into the resumes versus how much time is spent reading them. And how are you going to signal, if someone spends 30 seconds reading your resume, what is going to get you into the interview? Because then you're going to do a technical interview, and then after that, you might have different rounds of other kinds of interviews once you pass the technical interview. So what's going to get you from your resume being in the door, you have these projects on it, to getting to the technical interview phase, right? And there's just a lot of surprises there that I didn't know about myself. We used to do a whole webinar on this kind of thing, but we found this information is just much more relevant to people who already have the projects in place, and it's kind of smoothing out the sharp edges that makes them not get that interview, makes them not pass that thing. So we do all this stuff in the technical phase that we know you can do the job. You have the GitHub project that signals to people you can do it. So let's just remove all the other barriers in your place, get you a good LinkedIn profile, everything like that, so that you're going to be attractive to people hiring in the market. And yep, so this is the cloud and DevOps professional. Kind of just get into it. Again, it's videos, and then we do a 1 hour session every single day, project work. We prepare you, kind of with a lot of stuff I've said before. This is kind of just a recent survey that we saw that was pretty nice. A lot of people talking about how cloud skills helped out their careers or helped out their companies, and overwhelmingly positive that cloud is just it's the way to go. And so cloud being a big element of DevOps. The program is about 3 to 6 months, depending on your experience coming in. We've really set the program up to be able to handle people who are from absolute beginners to all the way to, very experienced, and you just want to skill up a little bit to get that, to go from, 90K a year to 100 and whatever, 30K a year. You want to skill up a little bit. Maybe that'll only take you 2 months, and we can help you do that, because you're going to have all the context for why the technology is important, and we just do it very quickly. And whereas a beginner, of course, is going to take longer, but really the amount of time it takes a beginner to get through the program really is very dependent on the beginner itself, like, their aptitude, how hard they work, especially. So we really can't say exactly how long it's going to happen. But as you'll see when we get to the fee structure, after people join the program, they can stay as long as they want until they receive a position. And then we also do support after the position as well. So, if you get to a job, we really are advocates of going after jobs early. You know what I mean? Have some code, have some skills, go apply. You never know what's going to happen. And maybe you're a little bit too early. Maybe 80% of what you need to do the job, and you're missing 20%. And that can be a little bit scary, but we're here to help you. You have our number, you have contact with us. We want to make sure you succeed and stabilize in your position, because once you stabilize there, and the position is probably going to have some static components, at least. Well, it must, especially when you're kind of starting it off. So as long as you can stabilize in that position, then you can kind of learn, you get your feet under you, and then you're good to go. So we make sure we support students till they receive the job, and then after they do as well, of course. Yep, so it's designed for success. And so basically, again, it's going for cloud engineer and also full DevOps engineer, but you really use the projects and the skills to branch out for so many different things. But this is really what we want to aim to people at. Yep, during your DevOps 1, so you get your introduction to IT, Linux fundamentals, network and security fundamentals, introduction to Python programming, database fundamentals. Just get a whole bunch of different stuff here, which is very, very core to being able to do DevOps. And then you get some of your more advanced stuff on the right side, where you got your Docker, your Kubernetes, and we're going to just teach you a lot of different things. But the important thing is having the right depth of understanding to be able to clear the interviews. So if you need to go do something with Kubernetes, you can research that, and you'll have enough of the fundamentals in place. You'll be like, oh, I know what Kubernetes is for. I know where I'd want to use it. And so, boom, you study up on it and you're ready to go with Kubernetes, right? But for an interview to get the job position, there's a lot of skills you want to just be able to talk about. And us really being able to tell you, okay, no, you're going to need to be able to know this much Linux to actually pass the technical interview, this much Python. You're going to have to know Kubernetes more in the talking part of the interview. That's one of the things that we really are proud of the program. It's really based on what the industry needs and what someone like Chandon, who's in industry, would want from a candidate. That we're not going to teach you 6 months of Kubernetes, because that would just be like a very inefficient use of your time. We're trying to be extremely efficient with your time here, and with ours, of course. And yep, so during DevOps 1, this is kind of the same thing. And then during DevOps 2, this is going to be a lot of the buzzwords that people are going to, once you understand these technologies and you can really do this at scale, then you're the kind of person who's, like 150K a year. You're extremely rare. You will be, very, very well paid. And this, of course, takes longer time. So we've broken up into 2 segments, DevOps 1, DevOps 2. And of course, post-training, like I was mentioning before, interview training, retraining on anything you need to do, project work can continue, especially at this point, because you're going to be ready to go. We can really hunt down paid internships, and there is so much contract work out there that for DevOps people that, if you're still applying for jobs, but you're strong enough that you've completed your projects, getting paid contracts at that point is something that's very, very doable. So that's pretty exciting. And that also gives you, a lot more help with your resume. And then, you can get references from other companies that you might do work for through vCloud Ready before you get out on your own. So yep, a lot of just, kind of like upgrading your profile that way. And let's go here. So yeah, placement phase. I think I covered that. LinkedIn strategies, of course, a lot of good stuff there. We've had some really good results, but within 3 months of graduation, it's 80%. Within 6 months, it's 91%. And then within 1 year, we get all of our students placed 100%. Some people with with technical backgrounds and also non-technical backgrounds. We like to kind of show that we've had people who are really committed, they work really hard, and they come from medical profession or what have you, and they've all succeeded. So it's basically self-paced videos, Slack channel support, live classroom every day, one-on-one mentoring, internship projects, and placement services. And we have a 1 week money back guarantee. That means you can come out to 5 hours worth of class and watch all the videos for 1 week to see if it's a fit for you, see if this is where you want to be, and then you can make a decision after that whether you want to stay in the program or not. And yep, just kind of just recap again. And so the fee structure is that it's $500 a month for 3 months. And then that's it. That's all you have to pay. So it's a total of $1,500 for the program, and you stay in the program until you get a job. And that's pretty much it. And then once you graduate, then you have the option to do $1,000 for post-job Slack support. So obviously, if you're making $80,000 a year at your job, paying $1,000, so to make sure that you have a stellar performance in your first couple months, that's probably a no-brainer to you. But of course, we really do want to put that out there because we really do help our students quite a lot after they get positions to make sure they're doing well, they're confident, they're not too stressed out. Because in a lot of ways, this is going to be stuff that we've seen before, so we can help with that. So that's kind of the structure of the program, and this can aim you for some really big jobs. So yeah, and so I will say that before we were doing, there's an asterisk here saying that you do an extra 3 months for an absolute beginner, but currently we've waived that. It's just $500 a month or $1,500 in total to aim you at DevOps. So yep, so here we can do a Q&A now. We have a registration page, and you can go to registration page. This is going to show you a lot of our course curriculum. And so if that's maybe a bit scary or whatever, don't worry. In a lot of ways, we will give you much more guidance about which parts to study in which order. There's just basically that's a lot of the different things there. It's a huge it's basically a huge amount of information, but that's to go from basically total beginner to someone who's like a DevOps expert. So you wouldn't want to be, you wouldn't want to try to learn that all at once. You try to learn that, build a lot of projects, go for jobs, apply for jobs, do the interview process, learn more, you know what I mean? So yeah, so don't be too intimidated, but you do get a lot of value if you join the program. Yeah, so just have somebody asking you how many students have you had in the DevOps specifically. So basically there's kind of two branches. One is that Chandon has trained a lot of people down in the States. And so this has been like hundreds of students down in the States. And up here, we've done about 20 up here, kind of starting our Canadian program. We haven't been doing this for very long. We actually started earlier this year, but we had so many people join kind of all at once that we had to slow down and kind of make a lot of video content and automate a lot of it. Very DevOps mindset is that we thought, okay, well, we wonder if people want to learn, DevOps, Toronto area and around here. And we had really resoundingly positive feedback. So we said, whoa, okay, we're kind of getting too many students. We better make, start, because we were doing everything live classes back then. So we were, then we created a lot of videos so people can work at their own pace. I think everybody likes videos. You can rush through stuff that you understand, obviously, or you've seen before, and then you can watch the parts that are really difficult to understand like 4 times if you need to. It's just so much more of an efficient way to learn with video. And then we kind of, we built out a lot of the program. So yeah, so I think it's about 20 up here. And how long has the program been around? It really depends. I would say for sure that aiming for junior DevOps cloud engineer from an absolute beginner, 6 months, you can definitely do it in 6 months if you work hard at it. Some people are going to have the opportunity to do it in 3 months, so there is quite a lot of a range. It really kind of depends on if you ask yourself, okay, it's active learning, right? So you have an error. What's your first thought about the error? Is your first thought, okay, I'm going to wait till tomorrow till they explain the error? Or is your first thought, okay, I'm going to go Google it, right? I'm going to go Google it and I'm going to understand what the error is so I can move on myself. And I think that's the key mindset that separates people who are going to succeed and people who are going to, or sorry, people are going to get through in maybe 6 months, people are going to get through in 3 months. Cool. I've had somebody saying this is too cheap. Well, yeah, it's economies of scale. So it's something that we can provide for people because yeah, it's something that, cost benefit works for us. So I wouldn't say it's too cheap. I would say it's, if you feel that way, then maybe you can think it's a deal. So yeah. Yep. And so let's see. So how long has the company been doing training? So Be Cloud Ready has been around since 2015. So we've been doing training since then. We offer, as time goes on and in different capacities, we'll do training for corporate clients. We will then change our focus to, we have one of our co-founders is a data scientist. So then we'll develop, more of a data science curriculum, data ops. And then now as DevOps is coming up, we'll start doing that too. So we do change our program offerings around, but again, we've been training since 2015. Let's see, I've been working on Python data science. This is probably, yeah. Yeah, for sure. I'm seeing somebody saying I've been working on Python for data science and data engineering. Will this program be suitable for me? For sure. Yeah. So basically, data engineering, kind of as it meets DevOps, is called data ops. And this is going to be a lot like what Sonu showed you. So Sonu showed you an example of that is something that we think is very doable for students, for new students pretty quickly. And we have a bunch of students who are completing it now. So we don't think that we know that. But it sort of leaves out a lot of, it sort of shows a lot of the functionality of what a project would be, but it's not actually using material that a business would want to have automated, right? He's just putting a Flask, a Flask app website up on one of these servers. But if you're doing, let's say, data engineering, ETL, you're really going to, you already have the business case for how you want to transform the data in your head, right? So then the next thing you're going to do is you can use DevOps tools to automate the ETL process, right, for data engineering. And when you're using DevOps tools, and there's kind of a core set of DevOps tools, Ansible, Kubernetes, things like this. When you combine that with your data engineering stuff, your databases and how you're going to be transforming things and moving around and loading around, and you're using a bunch of Python to automate that, to automate the whole thing. It's called DataOps. It's very, very rare. It's kind of a step up for data engineering because it's automating a lot of the process, making it a lot cleaner, a lot faster. That's extremely rare. So everything you've been working on before, Python is going to help immensely. And yeah, you can combine it with the data engineering for sure. Let's see, more questions here. We've got a lot of questions today, which is great. Let's see. Do you have a similar option for data science? Do you think someone can specialize in DevOps and data science? Cool. I hope I just answered the question about specializing DevOps and data science. You would probably be aiming for something like data ops, which is more data engineering. Data science is a lot of the machine learning side. If you wanted to go that route, you could definitely do like machine learning ops, ML ops, and again, that's going to be, you create a model. Obviously you clean up your data. You probably maybe have a data engineer getting you the data. You're going to clean up your data. You're going to do your initial data exploration. Then you're going to start building out your model and deploying your model. But then the question is, when does your model need to be retrained? How often? Where do you want to host your model? How are clients going to access your model? And then so this all gets into servers, right? And now you can already see that you're in operations territory. And this is exactly the thing that I was saying about Sonu's demonstration here, is that he's deploying a server and then putting a Flask app on it. You would be putting a machine learning model on it, probably with some kind of API so that your clients could be accessing it. And that's ML ops. So yeah, that's very much it. So I see Sona just posted something in there, and I see somebody's got to go. So yeah, great. Thanks very much, Luisa. I'm not sure if I'm saying your name properly, but thanks so much for attending. Yeah, as well, I can also type into chat here my email. If anybody would like to get in touch with me, and you can talk about your experience, get an idea of how long the program may take for you, if it'd be a good fit for you, any concerns you have. I know everybody comes from a different background, so sometimes just people worry, can I do this? Is what I have going to help me? Those kind of thing. So I'm happy to go over that with you. The truth of the fact is that in a lot of ways, everything that you've done is going to help you. Everything that's going to be technical that you've done is going to help you. But at the same time, a very committed beginner can get there as well. So that's kind of in a nutshell how to wrap it up for people's concerns. But obviously, I'm happy to go into more detail, 100%. Let's see. Yeah, is there any more questions here? Really good questions today. Yeah, I think Sunu answered the rest of the questions. I'm trying to think of if there's anything else we could talk about here. I do like the comment that the program's too cheap. That's interesting, because that could mean one of two things. Either you're saying it's a good deal, or you're saying that you you think that the program is maybe not as valuable as you would if we put a higher price tag on it. Given that DevOps is a really great field and it's a really, really, really great skill set, maybe you think that the program is not, like it's not going to provide you with enough value because it's $500 a month. So yeah, again, economies of scale, and we want to make it accessible to people. And also, there's a lot of really good reasons that we are happy with the price that we have. But at the same time, maybe we should raise the price. I mean, it gets people jobs that are great jobs. So maybe we'll have a discussion about that. But I like that comment either way. Are you currently working as a DevOps engineer? So I'm actually working, I would say something more like ML ops. I write a lot of automation scripts for Python or for AWS with Python. And I also do data science. So I basically, I'm actually in the phase right now in a project that I'm dealing with very, very messy data, and I'm trying to come up with how I want to build the model. But then once I've come up with some sort of model and I like it, then it will be a lot of creating I'll end up working with Sonu, software developer and also DevOps, to build build out the infrastructure, build the UI, see how we want to have the clients be able to access it, and then figure out where we want to deploy the model. This model is a time series forecasting model. So if people don't really know how that works, it basically means that the model needs to be retrained every period. Every time you get new data, the model has to retrain. So if the model is going to be a large, very expensive model, and it's not a large data set, but it's a very complex data set. So the model itself could end up being pretty compute heavy. Then that will come down to a lot of DevOps decisions about how to manage it, where to place it, how to manage servers on it. Depends on how many people on the client side are going to be accessing it simultaneously. So a lot of decisions to be there. So although I wouldn't say I'm a DevOps engineer, I do use DevOps tools and ideas all the time. So I remember you mentioned some of the programs. So before we were asking for we were asking for a percentage of salary before. We're pretty, I guess we're maybe too nice, but we're happy to train people for what we think is a fair price and then get them in the field. Great. Okay. Thanks, Sonu. Just somebody asking about AWS certifications. They're nice to have. They're definitely not. People won't give you a job because you have an AWS certification, because it's just a lot of theoretical knowledge. That's the problem. This is what we're talking about with the active learning, is that someone's not going to give you a problem in the same way that AWS gave it to you on the test. So if the knowledge isn't at your fingertips, there's kind of what they say in psychology is declarative knowledge versus procedural knowledge. So basically, a declarative knowledge is things that you can talk about. You can say, I know that the sky is blue. But procedural knowledge is things that you have kind of in your body, like how you can tie your shoes, right? Or how you could write a complex piece of code. It's kind of knowledge at your fingertips, so to speak. So the lot of the declarative knowledge, the theoretical knowledge that they'll give you in AWS isn't going to sync up directly with requirements in the job place. They're going to be much more, unstructured, vague, ambiguous. The requirements won't be exactly right. It's just not going to be clean like it is there. And so if you've built a lot of things with AWS, then you'll be able to take that procedural knowledge you gain through active learning and apply it to random weird situations. You'll be able to understand those situations as well. Whereas if you've just done the learning to do a certificate, you may or may not be able to do that, but it won't signal to employer that you for sure can, right? Whereas if they've seen you've built a project that mirrors something they're going to want you to do, and then the first thing they're going to think is, did you build that or did you copy paste it? That's the first thing they're going to think. But it's going to be enough for them to give you a technical interview. Then if you pass the technical interview, the next thing they're going to do is they're going to actually ask you to talk about the project. And that's going to, they're good at that, because you pass the technical interview, but everything's remote these days. So maybe you had somebody help you, or maybe you copy the answers from the internet or something like that. But now you've given them two signals that maybe you know what you're talking about. So finally, they're going to invest the time to say, tell me about your project. How did you make these decisions? Why did you do it? This and that and the next thing. And that's going to signal to them, if you can do all that, that you really did your project. You are who you say you are, right? And those kind of thing, all three things go together. So you can see how that's what they're looking for as kind of like the gold standard, right? Whereas like a certificate, it's really nice to have, but I mean, are they even going to validate it? If you were an employer, for example, how much time would you spend validating certificates, or how much time would you just spend, like, I don't know, maybe just doing the other things I talked about? Like, how would you derive signal from your candidates? So yeah. So anyways, that's kind of a bit long-winded, but I think it's a nice to have. If you have the opportunity to build out a project versus get a certificate, do the project 100%. And you do, as it turns out, have the opportunity to do a project. So if you join us, then we'll give you, I think it's currently 2, but we'll probably have 3 shortly, projects that will really signal that you have a wide range of DevOps skills that will attract employers. Yeah, that will speak to potential employers. Awesome. This has been really, really great questions. I'm going to give us a couple more minutes, like 2 more minutes for maybe one last question, and then I have to go as well. We had a really good turnout today, and I hope some people consider joining the program. DevOps is amazing. It's definitely, I think it's going to overtake data science as, the quote unquote sexiest job of the 21st century. So yeah, and it's definitely not saturated. The demand for it is just huge. So yeah. Okay. Any other questions? We had some really good ones today. I really appreciate the comments about how we should raise the price. We'll have to have a conversation about that. It's the same amount of work for us, so maybe we should. But yeah. Anyways, so if anybody's interested, maybe get in now before we raise the prices. But yeah, it was great talking to everyone today, and I hope you have a good day, and we'll see you soon. Okay. Bye bye.